Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Tobago. I'm Davia Chambers, and today we're in the village of Mount Pleasant, one of the villages synonymous with Easter and its festivities in Tobago. Now, Mount Pleasant is also surrounded by 90% of the island's best restaurants, recreational activities, and nightlife. We've got a lot in store for you in the next half hour as we recap the major events on the island over the past week. So stay with us as we bring you all the details. Tobagonians are becoming more innovative with our local foods. The island discusses crime prevention initiatives to keep our island safe, and the Tobago's goats and crabs make it to the big screen. We have these stories and more when Let's Talk Tobago continues. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Field hockey is a very widely held competitive sport across the nation. Here in Tobago, the Paradise Hockey Club caters to the development of the sport. The Mount Pleasant Field is one of their popular training grounds. Now, crime is a global problem affecting communities locally, regionally, and internationally. In an effort to treat with the problem, agencies in Tobago are working together to come up with preventative solutions before solutions escalate into major concerns. Omadara Mills tells us more.
For the period January to February 2018, there has been a general decrease in crime when compared to the same period last year, with slight increases in break-ins and pradia larceny. This was revealed by Chief Secretary Kelvin Charles during a recent post-executive council media briefing. Mr. Charles went on to reveal that the recovery of at least 2 firearms can be attributed to the recent increase in police officers working in the Tobago Division.
In collaboration with the Commissioner of Police, we arranged for some additional police officers to come to Tobago, so that there are at this time 20 additional police officers from Trinidad stationed in Tobago, and part of that crew is stationed at the Old Grange Police Station.
The Ministry of National Security is set to begin a new national crime prevention program. Tobago has been chosen as one of the divisions where the pilot project will be carried out. Mr. Charles gives insight into that initiative.
We have put together a team, and that team is chaired by the Assistant Secretary in the Office of the Chief Secretary, Mr. Ansel Dennis. And commencing next week, they will begin sensitization sessions with key stakeholders. Because the idea is that at the end of the day, a community council would be formed with a view to interact more closely with the community as a preventative measure.
Another precautionary measure focuses on ensuring that young people are steered into more positive activities. Mr. Charles says that children who are part of the rehabilitation programs at 2 of the island's secondary schools are expected to become members of youth organizations.
In respect of the cadre of persons that we sent to Roxborough and Signal Hill, that one of the supporting mechanisms we had indicated at the time we'd put in place would be ensuring that all of these young persons get some benefit from being involved in police youth groups in their area.
I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
Did you know that Tobago has the most community multi-purpose facilities per capita in the Caribbean? There are a total of 40 community facilities, much like this one, which are utilized for activities that lead to job creation and community recreation. Throughout the years, improvements are made so that residents can continue to enjoy and utilize the space. And speaking of upgrades, beach facilities around the island are being upgraded, and the Speyside is the first stop as the community gets ready to welcome patrons to Jazz in the East and all the beautiful fishing village has to offer. We have more in this story from Juliet James.
As part of the ongoing improvement of beach facilities in Tobago, the Speyside Beach facility has been refurbished to improve the visitor experience on the island.
We felt that it was definitely necessary to upgrade the facility to ensure that it continues to offer service to the patrons at the facility.
It had a lot of work on the building to do. We had was to do over all the tile work on the building. And we had was to do over the roof as well, the outer part and the inner part of the roof.
Along with electrical upgrades and the extension of the concessionaires area, patrons are able to enjoy a safer and more spacious facility.
Now that the facility has been refurbished, it offers the community another venue in which to have a number of different activities. It lends support to activities such as the Fisherman's Festival and the Speyside Jazz Experience.
The upcoming Tobago Jazz Experience in the East will also provide economic benefits. Speyside resident Miss Christine Scipio will operate the newly renovated restaurant and bar. She tells us about her plans for the operations.
The first thing I have to do is get the license, the bar license in order. So even if I don't get the full license, I can get an occasional license for the jazz festival and have things rolling from there.
The Speyside Beach facility has been refurbished at a cost of $700,000 and is now open for business. From the Division of Tourism, Culture and Transportation, I'm Juliet James reporting for Let's Talk Tobago.
Mount Pleasant also has an early childhood care and education center right on its main road. Research actually shows that high-quality education early in a child's life often leads to continued success and a well-rounded emotional and social individual. Now, people living with Down syndrome can have normal lives too. The Tobago leg of the Down Syndrome Conference, hosted by the Down Syndrome Family Network, was held at the Magdalena Grande Beach and Golf Resort. It was actually an opportunity to mark the global observance for Down syndrome, but also to impart practical advice and information on the condition. Crystal George has all the details in this report.
Down syndrome is a rare disease that occurs in about 1 in every 700 babies born across the world. Older mothers are more likely to have a baby affected by Down syndrome. World Down Syndrome Day is celebrated around the world on March 21st. This year's theme is My Community, My Workplace, enabling all people with Down syndrome to contribute and live valued working lives to be fully involved in the community.
The Down Syndrome Family Network has shown through its continued advocacy and activism its willingness to work with this special group to maximize their potential and not place them, as it were, into any proverbial box.
Having Down syndrome doesn't deter one from having big dreams and being successful, says David Egan, a 40-year-old living with Down syndrome. He was also the featured speaker at the conference.
People with Down syndrome can and do, in fact, contribute in the community and in the workplace. We belong in our community. We make a difference in many settings, from the family to the legislature, from the school to the workplace, in business, the media, the arts, sports, and in all aspects of human life.
A greater effort is needed to be made in Trinidad and Tobago to include people with Down syndrome. Glenn Niles, co-founder and chairman of the Down Syndrome Family Network TT, is calling for collaborative effort to be made from the government to the private sector to give people living with disability a chance to try, so they can find their forte and can be pushed to their fullest potential.
So that is what we try to challenge the public and private sector to create programs where even for those like Tyrese who did not benefit from an inclusive educational system, they might have on-the-job training where they would be able to mentor them and train them and see where their potential lies.
With care and support, children who have Down syndrome can live a healthy, happy, productive life. I'm Crystal George for Let's Talk Tobago.
It's time for a break, but when we return, we'll tell you how you can preserve your own food. So stick around. Let's Talk Tobago. We'll be right back. Mount Pleasant is also home to a steel orchestra, Carib Dixieland. Carib Dixieland has been in existence since 1955 and has won both the Tobago Panorama and THA Panorama competitions. To preserve its legacy, Carib Dixieland Pantent has recognized the need to recruit members of the community to become members of the orchestra and offer tutoring to anyone who's willing to learn. Ideally, food security exists when all people at all times have physical, social and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs. And the Tobago is taking steps to achieve food security. You'll see how in this report.
Could you imagine living without a refrigerator? Probably not. Well, before the advent of refrigeration, most of civilization had to make do without freezing. They preserved food. You see, with food preservation, the food lasts longer. Whilst the refrigerator is still used to assist in preserving food, there are methods to prevent the growth of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms in your food. And the Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries is sharing those methods with Tobagonians.
Some of the techniques that I use are freezing, drying, fermentation, pickling, canning. You could have chemical treatment or you could have irradiation. These are just some of the techniques that you could use when you're trying to preserve food. And why do you want to preserve food, really? Because you want to have, and I think Ms. Jones-Williams said it, food security. You want to secure your food. And sometimes not only secure food, but you want to increase your income.
A popular method is freezing. However, when freezing vegetables, they must undergo pre-preparation.
Why you blanch? You blanch to end enzymatic reaction in the product. You blanch to help retain the color, the texture, and the flavor after processing, and you help to reduce the vitamin loss. When you're not blanching and you're dealing with ripe fruits, then you use a different process. A process where you want to retain the color and the process where you want to retain every other thing. And you use an acid base to do that. You want to deal with the enzymes that I spoke about that will cause the discoloration of the food. So what you do, you use either lemon juice or ascorbic acid or something called citric acid. Any of those things you can use an acid base so you can retain or preserve especially ripe fruit color.
Another form of preservation you may be interested in is pickling.
Pickling allows you to store for so long. And not only you could pickle, but you could also ferment the food, which is also good for gut digestion. So when you're doing pickling, you will require to have clean jars, very clean jars. And sometimes you have to sanitize the jar. You boil the jars out with the cover. Yes, a few minutes, and you could get that. That's your full sanitization there. So this is a brine for pickling. You use about 9 parts vinegar. I prefer apple cider vinegar here, and 1 part non-iodine salt.
So the next time you purchase fruits or vegetables, preserve them to increase the bioavailability of their nutrients and reduce spoilage and wastage.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, Mount Pleasant is home to the historical St. Patrick's Anglican Church, one of the oldest churches in Tobago. This structure was built in the 1840s, but before that, it was a sugarcane plantation. Every year in August, parishioners participate in an ancestral walk, reenacting the path taken by former slaves who carried fire bricks from the ships to construct this church. We move from history to agriculture as Tobago looks to become more food secure. Stakeholders in the agricultural sector are looking at how we can become more creative with the use of our local foods. Here's a story on how one of our popular ground provisions is being used for its potential in developing value-added products.
The successful manufacturing and the sale of cassava bread is top priority for Tobago's agro-processors, nutritionists, and agricultural experts. They came together for a 2-day workshop to see how a value-added product like cassava bread can be derived from one of the island's staple ground provisions. This seminar forms part of a regional pilot project that's focusing on sustainable approaches to agro-processing, reducing the national food import bill, and value chain development for roots and tubers. Trinidad and Tobago is one of the 7 countries benefiting from the initiative.
Roots and tubers has been identified by CARICOM as part of the agricultural program development as a priority commodity for development. And what we also have a mandate from governments, from the highest level of the heads of government, is that we start doing work piloting cassava. The work coming out of this process will be able to be translated and put into other crops, so that if we are working together for cassava, they can work for sweet potato, dasheen, to improve production, linking it to market.
It's expected that a value chain committee will be formed to spearhead the manufacturing, marketing, and the sale of the cassava bread. In the coming months, the committee will work with the Food and Agricultural Organization, bread makers, agro-processors, and farmers who are interested in being a part of the pilot project.
The bread is already on the market, but we intend to improve the quality, improve the marketing, improve the labeling. Those are some of the benefits that we will be getting from this value chain committee. We will be looking at different varieties of cassava to see which one is the best one to have for the meal. You know, so it's, as I said, it's from the producer right up to the baker, the processor.
So far, the pilot project has achieved positive results in Barbados. Within a few months of the bread on the shelves there was an increase in sales and positive consumer responses for the product in that country. Chairman of the Tobago Agro-Processors Association, Darylyn Smart, appreciated learning about the case studies of other countries. She hopes that her members can adapt the model to suit our needs and take advantage of this initiative.
For the other processors, we can see how there are, other opportunities for them to increase their product offerings to be able to participate in this particular project. Cassava is one that Tobagonians know, and I think because cassava and Tobago are 2 names that are synonymous, I think that is an opportunity for our processors to get on board.
I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
We've got to take a break, but coming up next, we'll tell you about a film produced on Tobago's goat and crab races. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Goat and crab racing are 2 very unique and interesting events done right here in Mount Pleasant. On Easter Monday, this community hosts its annual Sports and Family Day, which includes the famous goat and crab racing. It was first introduced in 1925 by Samuel Callender, a Bajan who used goats as a substitute for horse racing, which was reserved for the local elites. We stay on the topic of goat and crab racing for this next report. A short film highlighting this tradition was produced by the Division of Youth Affairs and Sport. Crystal George tells us more.
The youths of today are the leaders of tomorrow. That's why the Division of Youth Affairs and Sport continues to highlight and focus on youth and their development to the island. Each year, the division hosts a caravan where they showcase the rich traditions and culture of the island. To mark the 10th year of the caravan, the division did a short documentary on the history of the goat races in the villages of Mount Pleasant and Buku, homes to the annual Easter Monday and Tuesday races. One highlight of the production was not just to showcase the races, but also to inform the public that the film production was done by a young budding Tobagonian who goes by the name of the youngest veteran.
For us in the Department of Youth Affairs, we continue to be governed by the policies that looks at the National Youth Policy, Commonwealth Plan of Action, and those of the likes that focus on youth development in Trinidad and Tobago and within the region at large and the world. And for us, one of the things that the policy has always spoken to is looking at our cultural identity, our focus, and different categories of youth. And therefore, we felt that this time around for our Easter Caravan, going into our 10th year, having started in 2008, that we should seek to zone into one of our young persons that we believe possess a talent and a critical skill set that is important if we are going to continue our cultural traditions within Tobago, and that is specific to the Easter races which takes place at Mount Pleasant and at Buku.
Wayne John, youngest veteran, said he always had a passion for projects such as this one and was excited to be selected. Collaborations such as these embody the division's mandate, which assures of a commitment to empower, expose, and encourage the youth of Tobago.
Well, I was contacted by the Department of Youth Affairs and Sport to do a documentary film documenting their involvement in the Buku Goat Race Festival. It is a festival that has always been at the forefront of my passion. Always wanted to see, that the behind the scenes of the Buku Goat Race Festival. The Buku Goat Race Festival, of course, is the one of the premier events, sporting events, tourism events on the island, and I just wanted to get, that in-depth information as pertaining to what goes into getting the goats ready, getting the jockeys ready, their whole mindset and everything.
Dexter Wilson, Youth Ambassador of Tobago, said initiatives like these are great opportunities for young persons to showcase their talent.
Honestly, I think it was wonderful seeing such a strong element of Tobago's culture on the big screen, and I love the fact that they were able to go, the division was able to go directly and empower a young person, one of us, to live out their dream or go on the process or start the journey to live out their dream. Because a lot of the times we as young people, all we need is a little bit of support. You understand what I mean? So support from getting him to actually go into the race and even promoting him to these new heights, seeing himself on the big screen, promoting these producers, promoting these local talents that we have to take them to the international markets. I think it was wonderful.
The documentary will be shown at both Mount Pleasant and Buku Goat races on Monday and Tuesday, respectively. I'm Crystal George for Let's Talk Tobago.
The Y Zone Center here at Mount Pleasant is one of 7 catering for youth development. It offers free computer services, training, and counseling. And guess what? The Y Zones are expected to include entrepreneurship studies pretty soon to further encourage young people to get involved in Tobago's business sector. Now, the Tobago House of Assembly has been hosting the Tobago Jazz Experience over the years as a way of stimulating the tourism sector. Come with me down memory lane as we take a look over the next few weeks at previous Tobago Jazz Experience events, starting with 2015, which featured Jennifer Hudson, Kool and the Gang, and Jill Scott.
If you love Tobago, show me something. One, I feel my ears on this song, 'cause
truth it is. Sing it to me. Truth, it's the truth, it's the truth. Do we stay home all the time? I hear you. Truth.
Do we play our song? Do the lights come on? Do we can't drive home? Shout, give me more, give me more. Do we roll along? Do we greet the sun? Give me more, give me more. Hey, give me more, give me more.
The stage is in front of us. Time to get advantageous. Only one go up like this. Whatever you have, go like this. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Advantage. You ready? Advantage. 1, 2. We not stand up, we getting up the ground. We not stand. Everybody, go. Get off the ground. Get off the ground. This body, get off the ground. I tell you, we not stand up, we getting up the ground. We not stand up. Everybody say your rock and start to hop.
Sing it with me. I want to give you some on the later on the yeah. Oh baby, come on. On the streets you righteous. On the night shift, baby.
If you want it in the morning, just call my name. If you want it in the evening, baby, just do the same. Let me suck it to you, suck it to you, suck it to you, suck it to you. The way a grown woman can. Let me give it to you, baby. Make you feel like the real. Give me, give me, give me.
Oh yes, it's ladies' night and the feeling's right. Oh yes, it's ladies' night. Oh what a night.
Oh, what a night.
Oh yes, it's ladies' night and the feeling's right. Oh yes, it's ladies' night. Oh what a night.
Ooh, girls, y'all got one. What? A night that's special everywhere. From New York to Hollywood. It's ladies' night and girl feels good. Sing it.
And it's now time to have Your Say, the segment of our program where we hear from you, the viewers. Let's now take a look at who had their say this week.
Alright, so we're here with Miss Jordan right now. So we're here with Bruce right now. So we're here with Brent right now. We're asking Mr. Philip. And we're asking who's Winchester. I can't talk words, I'm telling you.
Have Your Say segment brought to you courtesy B-Mobile, and we're through the streets of Scarborough and we're asking folks what are their plans for the Easter weekend.
Carry kids to the little festivity in probably Mount Pleasant, Buku, and check 1 or 2 friends for the holiday and enjoy and relax ourselves. That's what I plan to do. Maybe go to church also.
I plan on spending my Easter going to harvest. After harvest, go to the sports, watch the races.
I plan to go to class for the Easter, and after class go on the beach or something.
I planning to make money, you know, it's that driving the bus here.
Cabbage, body, sweet potato, tomato, this is what I'm doing. Yes, today and tomorrow I coming out and make me $1.
Well, I'm going Buku.
Probably go to the beach with my friends. Oh yeah, I plan to do a hiking with a club there. Saturday I probably go to the spa, go to church on Sunday, and then yeah, the rest of the days that left, stay home and bake my cheesecake.
What you plan to do for the Easter?
we close yet another edition of Let's Talk Tobago, and as always, we thank you for watching. Please email us with your comments or queries about the program, and be sure to visit our website, like our Office of the Chief Secretary Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. From our house to yours, I'm Davia Chambers, along with the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, wishing you a safe and very productive week.